Hello, I'm Torstein, and I would like to show how you can create a Slack wizard that can answer all your questions. And like many of you, I use Slack all day, and there are so many questions there, and many of them have been answered before. And so, wouldn't it have been great if we had a wizard like Gandalf that could walk through the channels and sprinkle his wisdom wherever needs be, and you can ask him anything and he doesn't mind answering the same thing all over again. And of course, you should answer in a thread and not pollute the main channel. So the API to use these days for Slack is something called Bolt, and they have made a great job of documenting that. So I recommend this link. They have, which will take you to this page, and they have an excellent getting started guide that you can follow through. And I will not replicate all of that here, but what I will do is use this Bolt API to build Gandalf, basically, for my Slack workspace. So let's create our Slack app. So we head over to Slack API, you log in, and you click to create first app, and then we want to create it from scratch. And of course, nothing less than Gandalf. You select the workspace he should belong to, and then we have our first app. And there are two ways your app can work. It's either through WebSockets or through HTTP. And what we want to do here is use WebSockets, because then you don't need a front-facing web service that receives the events from the Slack server. Instead, it's the other way around. It's your application that connects to Slack and has a WebSocket open the whole time, through which the communication goes. So it's much easier to get started with WebSocket, and then you can look into the HTTP method if you have scalability issues because of using a WebSocket that keeps the connection open all the time. Alright, so I have a Gandalf here, and the important thing here is that I need to enable this socket mode I talked about. So we head over here and say enable socket mode. Let's say connection rate. Token name, I just call that app. Alright, and that gives me an app token. I will just note that down. Let's see, I have it here. I'll get back to these parameters that you need later. So now we have enabled socket mode, and then the second thing we need to do is to go down here to auth in permissions, and we need to add some scopes. That's what you're allowed to do. So you should be able to read mentions, and you should also be able to chat. If Gandalf isn't allowed to say anything, then he's not of much use to us, is he? So with that, I think we're done. Let's see if that, where was it? The event subscription. Yeah, we need to enable events. So socket mode is enabled. That's good. We don't need to specify request URL. Very nice. And then we need to subscribe to both events, and it's the app mention that we're after here. So when someone says, "Yo, Gandalf, what's the answer to this question?" we want our app to trigger. So this is what's needed there. Let's just double check that app mentions read and chat right. Yeah, that's fine. Now we should be able to install it to our workspace. And you will be allowed to perform actions in channels and conversations. That's what you want. So we allow that. Now we got a bot user token, so I'll copy that as well, and I'll put that into my notepad here. previous token. There we go. Now, that's all we need. Install to workspace. Let's see. I don't think I needed that. Now I can go into my workspace here, and as you can see, there is now an app called Gandalf. And if I add a channel, say I add Gondor, and I open Gondor and I say integrations, and then I can add an app, and I can add my Gandalf app. And so now I've wired up the Slack site. So now I can continue with the coding. Alright, so that's what we've done. Created an app called Gandalf, and WebSockets is indeed the easiest to start off with. And we enabled socket mode. Right, let's get coding. So I prepared a little bit. So there is a pip file. So that's for contained environments. You know this if you've programmed a lot of Python, and for the others, this is just so that you can get a self-contained environment for your application, sandbox of sorts. Then set up CFG. This is where I define my dependencies. I like to define them this way so I can define a specific version. Talk more about that another time, but this is enough to wire it all up, and then I have a setup pi that glues it all together. So the setup pi glues to setup CFG together with the pip file, if you will. Okay, so let's start with the minpy, and I'll copy a bit of code so you don't need to type absolutely everything. Let's see, so what's going on here? I need to import that. Yeah, okay, so if you create an app, so this class here that comes from Slackbolt, and we read the environment variable with the Slackbot token, so we don't want to hard code it anywhere, and we don't want to read from a file that other people can be reading. We want to set this in runtime, so this is a very cloud native way of doing things if you will. The app event app mentioned here, this one, this corresponds to what we defined in the event subscriptions. So here you can see there's app mention that we defined or said that we want to subscribe to, and that's the same thing that we're listening to here. Okay, and then we got some callbacks in here, some objects, and then we can say something back. What's up? And then the run method. This is the run. That's because I have this thing in my setup. Sorry about that. In my setup CFG. There I defined that when I run the Gandalf script, the run method inside of Netskyber Gandalf main should be run. So that's why I have that. Yeah, that's it really. Let's give it a go. So I will run all of this. And now my app is running. So if I do hi Gandalf, he answers what's up. If you look here, the payload that we get back, it looks very much like JSON. So what I like to do is I like to convert it to JSON. So that means converting these single quotes, double quotes, and a couple of other things, and then you can print it in your editor. So this is what I've done, and so it looks like this, so it's a lot easier to code against. So you can understand what's going on. the second thing, so now the first thing that we want to solve, now we've got the thing up and running, is we want a civilized conversation. That means that we want Gandalf to answer in a thread, because now you can see that he just answers here in the main chat, and if this is a public room where lots of messages is going around, you definitely want it in a thread to keep it sorted. The way to do that is, let's have a look at the payload again. So you have a thing called, so you have the event coming in, so if we can put that in, body event like that, and then the message ID, I'm not quite sure what the TS is for, thread message, yeah, I think of it as ID, I think you can do it too. So if there is something called a thread TS in the event, let's say thread TS, we can first, so if there is no, how to put it, to start off with, the message ID is the same as the thread ID, and then if there is a thread ID in the event, then we use that, right? So event thread TS. Now we can create a more advanced callback using that thread TS, and to do that, the dot is still a dictionary, but instead of the say object, we want a client object, so that's that one. Let's see, did we import the right one? Yeah. Thread TS. So now we can do client post message, and it needs a lot of stuff. It needs a channel, which we don't have. So let's get a hold of the channel ID. So that's event channel. So again, I use the JSONified payload here to look it up. So it's called channel. I know that. So now I can do channel equals channel, and I can do thread TS equals thread TS. And then I can do text equals, whatever. It's not that important. There. Now Gandalf should be able to reply in a thread. So I rerun my application and I can say hi Gandalf, and now Gandalf replies in a thread. Very good. So now it's a civilized conversation. Then the second thing that we need to do is finding the question, and the block, they call it the block format. I guess it's because it's like event blocks. It's I don't know, it's a mouthful in my opinion. So you can see here, so you have an event object, and then you have blocks, one or more blocks, there's an array, and then inside a block, then you have a type like a rich text, and then the rich text has elements, and each element also has its element. So it's fairly deep, but you have to search through. Let's see here. So let's get a hold of the question. So the question is nothing yet, and then for a block in event blocks, and then for L in, what is that? Block elements, and there are elements inside the elements, and that's always the case, I think. But then what we need to be careful about is that now, so now we're here. inside here, so Ella, and you can see there's type text and type user, and we're not interested in anything but text type. So so if not text in you just continue to the next one, and then you can say the question is the text here. So let's have a look. Question is question like that. You can rerun it and say so now we've got the question set as well. You do see that it's a space after the hi, so let's strip it. So now it should be no. Space after it, so that's better. Okay, cool. So now we've got questions, so let's get us a couple of answers. We'll just do some simple answers. So we'll define an array. Of course, in a real app, this would come from a different file, a text file or a CSV or database or something, but for this demo, this is sufficient. So it's a dictionary, so the keys are the questions and values are the answers. So ints, and then you will answer, what's it called? Treebeard. Is there a leader? And Strider, whose name is Aragonson, Arathon. So when we have the question, you can iterate through the answers. And if, let's see, question in that one, then the answer is the value of the dictionary there. And let's see. Then of course, if there is no answer, if not answer, you should just return. Let's see, and it's kind of and it's I have to spell it correctly, so it's kind of, and then Gandalf replies, Treebird is their leader. So now we have a wizard that can answer questions in Slack. Alright, so we've used the Python Bolt API from Slack to create our application, and we have used WebSockets. So there's also another way where you can use HTTP, but that's for a different talk. Try out WebSockets first and get that working and see if that solves your problem. There's questions could be in many places when you have this block format, and I haven't gone into that today, but if you have messages with a lot of rich text and formatting and stuff, you need to look in many more places. And of course, there can be multiple questions in one message, so you will need to expand on this application to cater for that as well. And really, app registration is half the job. To know where you must click around in the Slack OAuth app registration interface, that's really half the job. Alright, that's it. There's a reading list as well, and thank you so much for listening. See you next time.